Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me. You are most welcome as always. Well, thanks a lot for coming back. We've got another Matchbox kit to review, another one that I haven't seen before. Completely new to me, but was around. Came out this one I read about in the sort of late 70s. Do we have a date? We'll tell you. The Vickers Wellesley. Now, for those of you that don't know, weren't educated properly, the Wellesley is named after Arthur Wellesley, who was the Duke of Wellington, of course, who won the Battle of Waterloo, along with lots of other troops and Prussian soldiers, etc., etc. But Arthur Wellesley, the Duke of Wellington, and that's where the name comes from. So it's the Victor of Waterloo, made by Vickers down at I was going to say Weybridge. It's Brooklands basically. And it's got this geodetic construction, the Wellesley, so it's the forerunner of the Wellington bomber. It wasn't actually designed by Barnes-Wallis, this one, but the idea, the concept was sort of picked up by Barnes-Wallis, and he realised we needed a much more advanced, more powerful bomber as World War II approached. And this came out in the early mid-30s. But it was our bomber throughout the 30s, you know. This and the Fairy Battle, both single-engine bombers, which I just don't think works really. I'm not sure, but both had massive wingspans, but were just a single engine. Weren't fast, weren't manoeuvrable. A rather errant concept. Anyway, to answer my own question, it is 1983 this came out, so this is the... I'm just going to try and tell you if it's the Chinese version 83. No. This is the incarnation of Matchbox just after they'd gone out of business as Leslie, sadly. So what do they call themselves? Matchbox International Limited, which is actually owned by the Chinese in Macau. A company called Universal Products, I think they were called. They actually bought the rights, and then later they dropped that name as well. So let's have a look at this though. It's an interesting subject. Let's zoom you in a little bit. One thing that saddens me a little bit straight away about this is this. We've talked about artwork before with Roy Oxley and all those other videos I've done talked about this, but they also, as well as dropping some of the more interesting artwork, they also drop the explanation at the bottom. It now doesn't have anything about the aircraft, it just has a lot of blah blah about their silly trademarks, quite frankly. Now previously, as you will all know, there would be a description saying, you know, Wellesley bombers are flying over the, you know, Egyptian pyramids or whatever it is. But here, nothing. Anyway, I should just say, by the way, before I get going, I've forgotten the most important thing. This kit was donated to me by one of the viewers and subscribers. A very good friend of ours, Ian, from County Londonderry, who also gave us this brilliant book, which I didn't mention previously, the Donegal Spitfire. By the way, previously I think I may have made a bit of a faux pas and suggested that County Donegal was in Northern Ireland. Sorry about this, you can tell I've not been to that part of the world, a bit ignorant enough to be honest. County Donegal, of course, is in the Republic of Ireland, just over the border from Northern Ireland, and it wasn't therefore, I don't think, the British Army that were helping dig it up, it must have been the Irish Army, but I haven't had a chance to read the book yet. Anyway, enough of that, we'll get into that in another video. But he has donated this because he said, oh, I've got this kit and it's been in the back of the loft for years. It's a little bit bashed, but would you like it? And I said, yeah, you know, by all means, I'll review it for you. And he said, no, you can keep it. So that was very generous of you, Ian. Thank you very much, and thank you for the book. And he wrote me the most generously sort of spirited card, greetings card, explaining that he sent this book as well as a bonus, you know. And it was very, very generous of him, and we really appreciate it. My wife was really quite moved actually, so thank you very much. And anybody else wants to send anything for review, if you want it back, as the gentleman with the Matchbox book and the Matchbox catalogues, he wants them back, and I certainly understand why. Absolutely no problem, I'll return them in exactly the same way, I'll use the same postal service if I can, and I'll make sure that they get back to you in good condition as before. So if anybody wants to send me things they'd like to see me review that haven't been done already, please do, and this is a perfect example. So to our friend Ian in Northern Ireland, say thank you very, very much. Let's get into it then. Have a look what we got here. So promise you, I've not opened the box yet, even though I've had it for a couple of weeks. I'm a bit nervous because it is quite delicate, I think. So let's just move the microscope out of the way, see if I can get in without doing any damage. Easy said than done. So there we go. Oh, and do you know what? I've got to open the one end that doesn't want to open. think I've done this wrong. Let's just rewind. That didn't start well there. One of the flaps appears to be glued, so I don't think we want to unseal that really. Let's go back to that. Right, let's try again. Let's just show you the side then, because we've got this quite nice looking choice of 3 colours of plastic, and we know we've talked about this in the past. Sometimes Matchbox makes some very odd choices, but this one looks more sensible. We know that this aircraft was in a camo of basically those colours, green and brown, and would then have like a pale duck egg blue type underneath. Let's have a look at this kit then, see what we have here. I'll zoom you out so you can see the whole process. Now then, yeah. Ooh, quite a few of the parts have been wrapped in tissue, that's good. One of the reasons, a couple of reasons why I've been a bit delayed in getting this done, Ian probably thought I'd lost it or sold it or something. No, I've had this problem with my arm. I'm going to harp on about my health issues, but I've had this problem with my arm, a lot of pain in my elbow. So it's tennis elbow or similar, but it's been very intense at times. Also, this kit, when it arrived, it was quite bad weather, and it wasn't damp as such, it wasn't wet, but it was just this feeling of dampness. So I've actually had it with some silica gel packs for a week or two, just to make sure it's completely dried out before we start handling it, and it's absolutely fine now. Unfortunately, it's just the time of year, you know. So this is quite a good start. We've got instructions, which looks very Matchbox-like, more so than that Revell incarnation of the Heinkel HE70 that we looked at recently, which was quite a nice kit, but some terrible instructions came with it from thanks and courtesy of Revell. So here we've got the more traditional type of thing. Let us have a look. Okay, so PK123, so they got into treble figures, didn't they? To the hundreds. And it says here, and it's not, again, this is one of the things I complained about with the Revell later versions of these kits. Look how Matchbox was so clear. It's in English, and then every other language has got their flag, so you know straight away that's not the English version. They put some data on the box of the Heinkel, and it was just not clear which. I didn't even spot that it was in English because it was in Dutch and French and German, and it just looked all the same. There was nothing to indicate what the languages were. You had to start actually trying to read through different languages and to spot that it wasn't English. It's actually harder than it sounds, and it wasn't that well printed. But anyway, I'm griping about instructions again, which I always do. Matchbox made it so clear to you, it's not a problem, you know. So, what does it say? Okay. As although relatively little known about this machine in the annals of World War II, the Wellesley was in fact the only RAF aircraft to operate during the 18-month campaign in East Africa against the Italian Air Force. Wow, okay, I didn't know that. It made frequent unescorted raids deep into enemy territory. The Wellesley briefly gained fame in 1938 because of its epic long-distance flight, 7,158.5 miles, unchallenged until November 1945 when a Boeing B-29, on its third attempt, managed to surpass it. So obviously it had good fuel then, good fuel capacity. It says it was introduced into the RAF, the Barnes-Wallis geodetic construction, which was later used on the Wellington bomber. Wellesley was developed from a private venture monoplane version of the Vickers, had tendered to the Air Ministry with a specification G4/31 for general purpose land plane. The original machine being flown on the 19th of June 1935. The first production variant of the aircraft flew in March 1937. It was a significant milestone in the RAF's history, being capable of lifting 1.5 times its own weight and introducing underwing hardpoints for carrying bombs, as is common now on modern aircraft. Well, okay, so it was a little bit of a trailblazer, you might say, in some areas. So it's got this massive wing design. Quite why they didn't give it 2 engines, I don't know, but it did have a lifting capability because of its big wing and had hard points, etc. You can see what I mean about its design. I mean, just look at the plan profile of this. It reminds me of the U-2 spy plane a little bit. Look at this. it does. It reminds me of you too, doesn't it? So we've got a little bit of a paint guide here, number 14 Squadron. And you've got mini paint guide underneath, the usual Matchbox thing. Shame it's not in colour though. This is an orange range one. You've got it in orange. Oh, it's got a vertical instructions, which I really don't like, but anyway. I did this on some of the later ones. Okay, so you've got a pilot and you've got a gunner. And you've got your gear here being built up. Then we've got the gunner at the back and his gun going in. Obviously his rearward facing, a bit like a bowfighter style, isn't it? Except he's got an aerodynamic, this sort of fancy aerodynamic, I don't know what you call it. It's the canopy really, isn't it? You see that? Let's just show you the, yeah, you see it here, can't you? Like a bubble canopy. It's an interesting design. Anyway, it does remind me of a bowfighter though when I look at the way this is all constructed up together. The front and rear positions, and you've got your big radial engine going in there. I'm not even sure what the engine was. Don't think it tells us that anywhere. In fact, it should be a shame. Nope, nothing about the engine. So I need to look it up on Wikipedia, which I didn't get a chance to do. Again, very much reminiscent of the Bowfighter, the way it looks here, I think. And then we've got these massive wings going on. You pop it in your radial engine, and it looks like there are two variants of the radial engine. There's a short cowl and a long cowl. Sorry, the way around. Short cowl, longer cowling. So two different versions. LRDA. So let's just say what that is. LRDA. Do we have any ideas? Okay. Development testbed for LRDU. LRDU, sorry. Yes, this is the radar. I've just realised. Yes, I do remember now a bit of history. This was the testbed development aircraft for the original airborne radar system. So they were actually putting some sort of radar equipment in it at the end of the 30s when they were testing radar before they became invaluable in the Battle of Britain, of course. So that's what LRDU is. Then we've got these what appear to be additional fuel tanks. They're not floats, that's for sure. They look like floats, don't they? How curious are they? It's fuel tanks, pretty sure. And then you've got your the LRDA version. It doesn't have any of that. It just has its. It just offers it in a. Strangely, it just offers it with the wheels up, which is kind of odd. But anyway, there we go. It's an interesting aircraft, and I do like this. It shows this bubble canopy set up here that I just mentioned, where the gunner is. Like a blister canopy, isn't it? Very interesting aircraft. It doesn't mention the engine detail, which is a bit of a shame. So we've got some decals here, which typical Matchbox have seen better days. As I've said before many times, Matchbox's one Achilles heel was the decals. They didn't last very long. After about 10 years, they're well on the way out. I do say that. I mean, I've got examples that are like new, but I'm not, because I didn't have them all through its life. I've no way of knowing what conditions they've been in. Certainly if they get exposed to any kind of moisture or sunlight or anything like that, if they're not in a cool dark room, they're going to get into trouble basically. So that's completely normal, I have to say. We know that this was in a loft. Let's have a look what we've got then. So we've got some clear parts, I think, here. Quite interesting to have a kit that I've never seen before and start from scratch here. Okay. Oh yes. Nice. Look at that. Comes on this little sprue of its own. Very delicate looking thing for a Matchbox. Oh yes. What do you reckon? Nice, isn't it? Let's just turn it around a bit. That's the rear. The rear canopy. This is the front. This is the rear. Quite a nice little piece, that. Love the way they've wrapped it in sort of greaseproof paper. Oh, there's also a little window. There's a window, side window. Is that on both sides or just one side? Well, there's one window there. Is there another one on the sprue? No. Okay. Yeah, I think he mentioned this. There was an email from him, and he actually said to me, this is Ian, the owner, and he said that the crew had escaped via the French resistance, I think he put it. And I think you mentioned 1 or 2 parts appear to be missing, so I think one of the 2 windows is missing, side windows. And then we have one, but we do have one in the bag. Make that out. One in the bag there. Not to worry. Not to worry. Let's just see if we can get that back in there, which is going to be a bit of a challenge, if I'm honest. There we go. Not too bad in the end. Not too bad. Got it. Alright, now then. Let's see if I can just... sorry. Let's see what we have. Okay. Oh yes, okay, now. Now this is very interesting. Matchbox have done this well. Look at the way they've moulded the geodetic panelling effect, just like they did on the Wellington. Okay, so they've got that really rather nice. Now, you can see straight away where the Wellington, the development later into the Wellington has come in. So in the Wellington, they sort of, I mean, looking at it now, to my eye, it's like they took those wings and said, those wings are great. Yep, let's have twin engines though. Put them on the wing. The cells fitted to the wing. Let's have a turret. A gun turret at the front of it, so we've got a big twin bomber, more power, more speed, sorted, you know, heavy lifting capacity increased. And that's kind of what they did. We have got a broken, looks like we've got another broken part here, it's the propeller. Yeah, the propeller blade is a blade missing, unless it's somewhere else hiding. It might be. Don't think so. No, I think we're out of luck, it's gone now. So we've got a busted one there, but never mind. Maybe scratch build something using a bit of sprue, not that difficult for a blade. But it's nice, isn't it? You can see this geodetic pattern, which of course gives minimum weight and maximum strength. A lattice work. Fantastic. Like that. So that's that one. Then we have got sprue number 2. And that's a dark blue for some reason. It's a very strange choice, wasn't it? Dark blue underneath. This is the top of the wing, so again we've got the geodetic very, very evident even on top. Very, very obvious. Yeah. Okay. And you can even see it on the tails, look. It's really a geodetic airframe with a load of canvas over it, really, isn't it? Probably explains why it had good range. It probably wasn't that heavy. It's probably a lot lighter than it looks, this plane. I mean, it looks horrendous and an ungainly thing, but clearly it wasn't, otherwise it wouldn't have been able to do these range and sort of speed and range records it achieved. Here's the extra fuel tanks, and that's probably what helped it a lot. We also have here the one prop that's not broken, it's in one piece. Put those two back together. And then finally we've got the brown sprue. Oh, we've got parts coming off now. Be very careful here. Very, very careful. Because where my finger is, that's very loose and about to part company. But again, you've got that sort of hurricane style framework down the part geodetic and part basically frame down the length of the fuselage. And then you've got the, again, more evidence of the geodetic in the tail. And then you've got these two, where my finger is here, you've got these two different optional cowlings for the engine. And then you've got these two different noses as well. Optional different versions of the front end. And we have got, oh, so we haven't lost both the crew. We've got one here, we've got one pilot. This is the one where my finger is that's run off to join the resistance or whatever. He's gone. He's left the party. Well, that's nice actually. That's very reminds me of both the Wellington kit from Matchbox and of the Hurricane in many ways. It's very sort of evocative of both of those, isn't it? Really? And it's not in bad condition. This kit. It's got one broken part and one part missing. Okay, and a window. So two parts missing, one broken. It's not bad though. I expected worse, really. Box has seen better days, but yeah, it's in there sadly. Shame that. Nice kit though, very nice kit. So thanks very much, Ian. Thank you for sharing that with us. It's certainly, you know, if you look back at my Taylor 2 Wellingtons and you look at the review I did there with the Matchbox Wellington, you can see a lot of similarity, can't you, in the two aircraft. That wing is very Wellington-like. It just doesn't have the engine on the wing, but it's quite a nice kit. It's got to be said. It's a little bit of, tiny bit of scratch building, a little bit of acetate, and a tiny spot of imagination that would build into a really nice Wellesley. And apparently the Wellesley was the same, wasn't it? It was used in Italy against the Italians. It wasn't the sort of thing you'd put up against the Luftwaffe or the latest technology aircraft, obviously. But nevertheless, quite an aircraft that's able to carry a heavy load for long distances. There wasn't a lot of other things around, especially just before the start of World War II. So sort of 1937-38, when the war drums were sort of banging out from Germany. I'm sure that we were very dependent on these airplanes as a means to, you know, deliver bombs over a great distance. There we have it. So that's the Wellesley. It's a really rather a nice kit, actually. Enjoyed that more than I thought I was going to. I wasn't sure. I don't know anything about it. You know, I've never seen one before. What did you think? Marks out of 10 then. Well, you have to bear in mind this one's it's been slightly damaged because we've got a couple of missing parts. We're not going to hold that against the kit though. I'd give that, I think, 7.5 out of 10. It's a bit softly moulded, but it's still got nice detail, you know. And it's got some interesting features. Instructions are fairly clear, fairly good, and you know, I quite like the way they've done it. Far better than Revell did later. So I think 7.5 out of 10. 7.5 to 8, I think it's about right. Nice kit. Thanks very much to Ian. Hope you'll give me 10 out of 10 if you can. As I said, thanks to Ian, because without him I wouldn't be able to do this review, and I'd never have seen a Wellesley at all. Named after the Duke of Wellington. What a machine, you know. Just don't go flying it when there's any advanced fighters flying around, that's all. Anyway, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it and found it interesting. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and if you have, then make sure you smash that notification bell, because that way you'll get early warning of the next upcoming video. And we've got plenty of things coming up soon. We've got lots of memorabilia. We've got talk about a book about the Donegal Spitfire that was crashed into the peat bog in County Donegal in Ireland. We've got lots of interesting things to do with Matchbox for the rest of Matchbox March, especially the book, which is going to be absolutely amazing. I'm going to be struggling to part with this book because the owner wants it back, and I'm going to be weeping when I put that back in the post. And that's our old friend Paul Hunter, who lives up in Harrogate, who's donated that for us. So we've had a lot of help from some of you viewers. So please, if you have a kit that I haven't done, I'll give you some ideas, ones that I wouldn't mind looking at that I haven't done. Things like the 1/32 scale Dauntless, or the Tiger Moth, or the Sea Venom. None of that. Oh, the Lysander as well. That's a kit I'd like to review. Never seen any of those kits. Never had my hand on them at all. Any of those would be very welcome. Anyway, till the next time, I hope you all stay well, stay safe. Thanks very much for taking the trouble to watch and join me. I hope you found it interesting. We'll try and get you some more amusing Matchbox related memorabilia and nostalgia, and I mentioned we've got some catalogues coming up, and they're really good because they also show some of the finished kits, and it's interesting just to see the way that it was done in the 1970s. And Matchbox were quite advanced. They were actually copying Tamiya rather than Airfix in the way they went about it. So we'll get into that later. Hope you'll tune in for that soon. In the meantime, thanks very much for joining me. Take care of yourselves, and bye for now.